cave. Bernie now guided the car over back roads to Old Town, and we were home in no time. The lights were on in my house, and it had never seemed more welcoming. Bernie insisted on carrying my bags inside. Mars held a phone to his ear as he opened the kitchen door for us. He had spent the weekend there while I was away. My Osicat, Moki, who had bullseyes on both sides of his body and fur that looked like necklaces and bracelets instead of the spots he was supposed to have, mewed like I had been gone forever. I swept him up into my arms. He tilted his head and rubbed it against my chin. All was well again in my world. If there was a second stroke of bad luck, it would likely come in the form of the repair bill for my car. I thanked Bernie profusely, and Mars too. The two of them left for home in Bernie's car, which made me smile because they lived, as my grandfather would have said, within spitting distance. Tuesday morning loomed early, but I was eager to get back to work. I had just finished my breakfast of a soft-boiled egg and toast when the car dealership phoned. It was great news. The part that had failed could be easily replaced for a reasonable amount of money, and the car would be fine. The requisite part was being shipped to them as we spoke. By 11:30, I was at Blackwell's Tavern for a business lunch with Mrs. Hollingsworth Smythe, which rhymed with tithe, with a long I and a silent E, and her daughter Dodie Kucharski. I had organized several major charity events for Mrs. Hollingsworth Smythe and found it difficult to turn her down when she asked me to arrange a very large 4th of July party overlooking the Potomac River. Old Town Alexandria, Virginia, where I lived and worked as an event planner, was a hot spot for visitors because we were located across the river from Washington, D.C. Old Town was a destination itself, with lovely historic homes and charming shops and restaurants. Favored by Mrs. Hollingsworth Smythe and her friends, Blackwell's Tavern was an upscale place, which had been around for many years. The food was good, but their cheesecake selection was outstanding. I happened to know they were Bobbie Sue's cheesecake, the same cheesecake served by many restaurants in the D.C. area and across the country for that matter. But most restaurants offered only one flavor. Tate Bodoin, the owner of Blackwell's Tavern, happened to be married to Bobbie Sue Bodoin, whose cheesecake baking business had grown into a small empire. She didn't have a restaurant of her own because she sold directly to restaurants, but it did mean that her husband offered little else on his dessert menu. Tate, a slightly pudgy man with graying light brown hair, glasses, and a substantial white mustache, stopped by the table to see how our lunch was and pitched cheesecake for dessert. To my complete horror, Mrs. Hollingsworth Smythe declined dessert because she was on a diet and informed her 40-ish, going on 50 daughter, Dodie, that she would not be having any cheesecake if she wanted to fit into a certain dress for their big bash. I couldn't exactly pig out on a slice of raspberry chocolate cheesecake in front of them. I gave Tate an apologetic look. I'll take 4 slices of cheesecake to go. You know Nina will want some. Surprise me. He patted my shoulder in a friendly way. They don't know what they're missing, he joked before ambling off. He's such a gentleman, said Mrs. Hollingsworth Smythe. Sophie, darling, please be sure that we offer an ample assortment of cheesecake on the dessert table at the fete. Mother, prompted Dodie. Oh, yes, Dodie, how could I possibly forget? Sophie, dear, I understand that you are friends with the man who runs the Laughing Hound. Please be sure that he receives an invitation. Dodie has her eyes on him. You know, after my first divorce, I went after a working man, too. He was something else, the love of my life. Mother! Dodie's tone admonished her mother. Am I embarrassing you, Dodie? You know I was quite the looker in my day. Mother! Yes, well, perhaps enough said about that, but there is something very sensual about men who toil for a living. Well, well, Bernie would be surprised to hear about this. Except for the lack of dessert, something I never turned down, the meeting had gone well. When I paid the check, I noticed an envelope in my purse. With 2 clients looking on, it wasn't the time to empty my purse and examine the contents. After the requisite goodbyes,